How do you explain a pregnancy when you haven't touched your wife in 5 months? That question ripped through me the moment I pulled a crumpled tissue from our bathroom trash can. Hidden beneath it was a pregnancy test. 2 unmistakable pink lines. Positive. For several seconds I couldn't breathe. The plastic stick felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds as my fingers tightened around it. My mind refused to accept what my eyes clearly saw. The bathroom suddenly became painfully quiet, leaving only the pounding of my heartbeat echoing inside my head. My name is Ethan Cole. I'm 35 years old, an African-American mechanical engineer living in Atlanta. Until that morning, I believed my marriage was simply going through a difficult season. Naomi, my wife of 7 years, kept telling me stress had stolen her desire for intimacy. She promised it wasn't about another man. She insisted she loved me and only needed patience. I gave her exactly that. Patience. Understanding. Space. Because my late mother always told me, real love is patient, but patience should never blind you to the truth. I repeated those words every lonely night as I lay awake beside a woman who slowly felt farther away than a stranger. Now, the truth was staring back at me from a cheap white piece of plastic. I searched the trash again. There were empty vitamin packages, a receipt from a pharmacy across town, wrappers from crackers Naomi had suddenly started eating every morning. Pieces of a story I had ignored suddenly fit together like broken glass. Morning sickness, constant exhaustion, secret phone calls she always took outside, cancelled date nights, smiles that disappeared whenever I entered the room. Had I missed the signs, or had I been too afraid to see them? The sound of footsteps interrupted my thoughts. Slow, careful, almost hesitant. I looked toward the bathroom door. Naomi froze the instant she saw the pregnancy test in my hand. Every bit of color disappeared from her face. Her breathing became uneven. She didn't ask what I was holding. She already knew. "Ethan!" Her voice barely escaped her lips. It wasn't anger. It wasn't surprise. It was fear. The kind of fear that only comes when a secret has nowhere left to hide. I slowly lifted the pregnancy test between us. "We haven't been together in 5 months." Those 6 words filled the room with unbearable silence. Naomi opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again. I can explain. I kept looking into her eyes. She couldn't hold my gaze. Instead, tears formed before any explanation ever came. My mother used to say, when someone fears the truth more than the lie, silence becomes their safest hiding place. For the first time, I understood exactly what she meant. Naomi reached for my hand. I stepped back. Not because I hated her, because I suddenly realized I didn't know the woman standing in front of me. My phone vibrated inside my pocket. The message came from Marcus, my closest friend, my business partner. "We need to talk today. Don't tell Naomi I'm meeting you. It's urgent." My stomach tightened. Before I could respond, another message appeared. "I know about the pregnancy. There's something you don't know. Please come alone." The blood drained from my face. Naomi saw the messages. Her eyes widened with pure panic. "No," she whispered. "You can't meet him." Her reaction confused me even more. "If this baby isn't mine," she interrupted before I finished. "Please." She was crying openly now. "You have to let me explain first." I looked from the pregnancy test to my wife's trembling face, then back to Marcus's messages. Neither of them looked like people who were protecting me. They looked like people protecting a secret. I slipped my phone back into my pocket and quietly walked toward the front door. Behind me, Naomi's voice cracked. "Ethan, if you leave now, everything will change." I stopped with my hand on the doorknob. For one brief second, I almost turned around. I almost believed there was an explanation capable of saving our marriage. Then, I remembered the pregnancy test still resting in my hand. I opened the door and stepped outside. I had no idea that the truth waiting for me was far worse than betrayal. The drive across Atlanta felt longer than it ever had before. Every traffic light gave my thoughts more time to torture me. I replayed every conversation Naomi and I had shared over the past year. Every smile, every excuse, every promise. I kept asking myself the same question. When had my marriage stopped feeling like a partnership and started feeling like a performance. Marcus asked me to meet him at a quiet coffee shop we had visited since college. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't crowded. It was simply a place where we had once dreamed about building successful careers and raising happy families. Back then, we believed honesty was enough to overcome anything life could throw at us. I arrived first. The untouched cup of coffee in front of me slowly turned cold while my mind raced. My mother's voice echoed inside me once again. Never let pain make decisions that wisdom should make. I repeated those words until Marcus finally walked through the door. The confident businessman I knew was gone. His shoulders were slumped. Dark circles rested beneath his eyes. He looked like a man carrying a burden too heavy to hide. He sat down without ordering anything. For several moments, neither of us spoke. Then he looked directly into my eyes. "Ethan, before you hate me, you deserve the truth." My heart pounded harder. "What truth?" Marcus lowered his head. "I found out something 3 weeks ago." He pulled a sealed envelope from his briefcase and carefully placed it on the table between us. "I've been trying to find proof before telling you." I stared at the envelope, but refused to touch it. "What is it?" "It's everything I could gather." His voice cracked. I never wanted to believe it myself. The room suddenly felt colder. Outside, rain began tapping against the windows like impatient fingers. Marcus pushed the envelope closer. "I think Naomi has been lying to you for a long time." My stomach tightened. "Lying about what?" He hesitated, then answered quietly. "About much more than the pregnancy." I slowly opened the envelope. Inside were printed photographs, copies of restaurant receipts, hotel reservations, bank statements. Nothing looked familiar. Until I reached the final photograph, my hands began shaking. Naomi stood outside a luxury apartment building. She wasn't alone. A man stood beside her. His face wasn't visible, but his hand rested gently on her back. An intimate gesture, one that no stranger would casually make. The date printed beneath the photograph made my chest ache. It had been taken 4 months earlier. The same weekend, Naomi told me she was visiting her sick aunt in Savannah. She had kissed my forehead before leaving. She looked into my eyes and said, "I'll miss you." Every word had been a lie. I pushed the photographs away. "I don't understand." Marcus swallowed hard. "I hired a private investigator after someone anonymously mailed those first pictures to our office." "You what?" "I didn't want to accuse your wife without evidence." His eyes filled with regret. "I thought maybe someone was trying to destroy your marriage." I looked back at the photographs. The evidence was impossible to ignore. Yet one question remained. Who was the man standing beside Naomi? Marcus leaned forward. "There is one thing I still haven't been able to prove." I looked up. "What?" He took a slow breath. "I think the baby's father is someone you know." The words struck harder than any punch. My phone suddenly rang. "Naomi." I stared at her name flashing across the screen. Marcus quietly whispered, "Don't answer." My thumb hovered above the screen. If I ignored her, I might lose my last chance to hear her side. If I answered, I feared the next sentence would destroy whatever remained of my life. My thumb hovered over the screen for several seconds before I silenced Naomi's call. I wasn't ready to hear another explanation built on half-truths. If there was still honesty left in my marriage, it had arrived too late. Marcus watched quietly, saying nothing. Sometimes silence carries more respect than words ever could. The phone vibrated again. Another call. Then another. 3 missed calls in less than 2 minutes. Finally, a message appeared. "Please come home. I can explain everything. Don't let anyone tell you my story before I do." I stared at the words until they blurred together. For years, I had believed actions revealed character. Yet now every action pointed in a different direction. The pregnancy test said one thing. The photograph said another. Naomi insisted there was an explanation. Marcus believed there wasn't. Someone was lying. I just didn't know who. My mother's voice surfaced again. "Truth never fears the light, Ethan. Only deception begs for darkness." I folded the photographs back into the envelope. "I need answers," I said. Marcus nodded. "I know, but I won't accuse anyone without proof." A faint look of relief crossed his face. I hoped you'd say that. He reached into his briefcase once more and removed a small flash drive. I almost didn't bring this. I frowned. What's on it? The investigator recovered security footage. My heartbeat accelerated. It shows Naomi entering that apartment building. He paused. But it also shows something unexpected. What? The man she's meeting keeps his face hidden. I blinked. What do you mean? He wears a cap, sunglasses. He parks underground. Every single time. Every single time. Those words echoed through my mind. This hadn't happened once. It had happened repeatedly. I slipped the flash drive into my pocket without looking at it. Not yet. Part of me feared the truth. Another part feared discovering there was still more I didn't know. As we stood to leave, Marcus stopped me. Ethan. I turned. I've already paid the investigator. I don't care about the money. I know. His expression became unusually serious. But someone else does. He handed me a folded business card. The investigator's name was printed neatly beneath the company logo. Across the back, a handwritten sentence caught my eye. Don't trust the obvious suspect. I looked back at Marcus. What does this mean? I asked him. And? He refused to answer. Outside, the rain had stopped. The city looked strangely peaceful, as though nothing terrible had happened. My phone buzzed once again. This time, it wasn't Naomi. It was an unknown number. I answered cautiously. A calm female voice spoke. Mr. Cole? Yes. My name is Angela Brooks. I'm the investigator assigned to your case. I tightened my grip on the phone. I've seen your evidence. No, she replied quietly. You've only seen part of it. Every muscle in my body tensed. What are you talking about? The photographs were only the beginning. My pulse quickened. Then what's the rest? She hesitated. The person you believe betrayed you, another pause, may actually be trying to protect you. The line went silent. Then she added one sentence that completely changed everything. If you want the whole truth, meet me tonight. She gave me an address. An abandoned warehouse on the edge of the city. Before I could ask another question, she hung up. I lowered the phone slowly. Marcus searched my face. What happened? I looked toward the grey skyline. The story isn't over. For the first time that day, I realized something terrifying. Maybe I had been asking the wrong question all along. Maybe the real mystery wasn't whose baby Naomi was carrying. Maybe it was why someone wanted me to believe only part of the truth. That was the exact moment I realized nothing would ever be the same again. I spent the rest of the afternoon driving, without knowing where I was going. Atlanta's streets blurred together, while Angela's words replayed inside my mind. The person you believe betrayed you may actually be trying to protect you. Nothing about that sentence made sense. If Naomi was protecting me, why hide a pregnancy? Why lie about where she had been? Why let our marriage slowly fall apart instead of trusting me with the truth? Questions multiplied faster than answers. As sunset painted the sky orange, I finally parked outside the abandoned warehouse Angela had mentioned. The building stood alone at the end of an industrial road, surrounded by rusted shipping containers and broken fences. It looked forgotten by the world. A black SUV was already waiting. Angela stepped out before I reached the entrance. She looked nothing like I expected. No dark sunglasses, no dramatic attitude, just a calm woman in her early 40s carrying a leather folder. You came alone, she said. I almost didn't. She nodded. That's understandable. We walked inside. The warehouse echoed with every step until we reached a small office that still had electricity. Angela placed the folder on an old wooden desk. Everything I collected is here. I looked at the thick file. Then tell me one thing. She waited. Is my wife having another man's child? Angela took a slow breath. I can't answer that. Frustration exploded inside me. You've been investigating for weeks. I deal in evidence. Then show me the evidence. She opened the folder. Inside were photographs I had never seen. Naomi entering hospitals. Naomi leaving law offices. Naomi meeting an elderly woman in a wheelchair. None of them showed romance. None of them showed another man. I frowned. This isn't what Marcus showed me. No, it isn't. She slid another document toward me. Bank records. Large cash withdrawals. Every payment came from Naomi's personal account. The recipient's name appeared again and again. Grace Children's Cancer Foundation. I stared at the papers. What is this? Monthly donations. For almost a year. My confusion deepened. Naomi had never mentioned supporting any charity. Angela continued. She also paid the medical bills of 3 children. Why would she hide that from me? I asked the same question. The room fell silent. Angela reached into the folder one last time. This time she removed a hospital file. The patient's name wasn't Naomi's. It wasn't mine either. It belonged to a little girl named Ava Johnson, age 6. Leukemia. I looked up. Who is she? Angela answered softly. The daughter of Naomi's closest friend. I searched every page. Treatment schedules. Emergency surgeries. Medication costs. Everything had been paid anonymously. By Naomi. But why lie to me? Angela folded her hands. Because she wasn't the only one helping. What do you mean? She looked directly into my eyes. Someone else was paying the remaining bills. A strange feeling settled over me. Who? I haven't identified that person. She paused. But whoever it is, they've been following both you and Naomi. Cold chills ran down my spine. Before I could speak, headlights flashed through the warehouse windows. A vehicle had just pulled into the parking lot. Angela immediately stood. They're early. My heartbeat accelerated. Who's early? She looked toward the door. I hoped we'd have more time. Footsteps echoed through the warehouse. Heavy, confident, deliberate. Someone stopped just outside the office. Then a familiar voice spoke through the darkness. Ethan. It was Naomi. But she wasn't alone. Another pair of footsteps approached beside her. And when the second person stepped into the light, my entire world shifted once again. The man standing beside Naomi wasn't her lover. He wasn't even someone I recognized. He appeared to be in his late 60s, dressed in a simple navy suit despite the cold evening. His silver hair framed a face marked by years of quiet hardship rather than wealth. Yet the moment our eyes met, something inside me shifted. He looked at me with sorrow, not triumph. Naomi slowly stepped forward. Ethan, please listen before you walk away again. I remained where I was. I've spent all day listening. No, she replied softly. You've spent all day hearing pieces of the story. The older man cleared his throat. My name is Benjamin Lawson. I waited. I was your father's closest friend. My heart skipped a beat. My father died 20 years ago. Benjamin nodded. I know. Then why have I never heard your name? Because your father asked me to disappear. Nothing about this night felt real anymore. Angela quietly closed the office door behind us. No one leaves until everything is said. Benjamin removed a worn leather envelope from his briefcase. The day your father died, he entrusted me with documents he feared would put your family in danger. I stared at the envelope. Why now? Because the danger never disappeared. Naomi looked at me through tear-filled eyes. The day I found out someone was watching us, Benjamin contacted me. I frowned. You knew him? She nodded. Only for the last year. Benjamin continued. Your father owned more than you were ever told. I shook my head. We were poor. That's what he wanted everyone to believe. He handed me several old property deeds. My father's signature covered every page. Large sections of land, warehouses, commercial buildings, properties that had quietly increased in value for decades. My hands trembled. I don't understand. Your father built everything under anonymous holding companies. Benjamin's voice remained calm. He feared powerful people who wanted those assets. Angela added quietly, some of those people are still searching for the rightful heir. I looked toward Naomi. So you kept this from me. Fresh tears rolled down her cheeks. I promised Benjamin I would. Why? Because they started following you. Every emotion inside me collided at once. Anger, confusion, relief, fear. She continued before I could interrupt. The pregnancy test, her voice cracked, was never mine. I stared at her. What? It belonged to my best friend, Danielle. She closed her eyes. Her little girl has leukemia. I was helping her hide from an abusive ex-boyfriend while Benjamin worked with Angela. Pieces finally began fitting together. The hospital visits. The charity payments. The apartment. Everything I believed had pointed toward betrayal. Instead, it pointed toward protection. I lowered my head. Then why throw the test away in our house? Naomi wiped her tears. Danielle stayed with us while you were away on business. I planned to tell you, but every day the danger grew. I thought keeping you in the dark would keep you alive. Silence filled the warehouse. My mother used to say, fear builds walls, love builds doors, but secrets leave people trapped between both. For the first time, I understood those words completely. I looked at Naomi. I should have trusted you. She slowly shook her head. No, I should have trusted you first. We stood there, separated by weeks of silence and one terrible misunderstanding. Then Benjamin spoke again. I wish this were the end. Every head turned toward him. His expression became deadly serious. The people searching for your father's inheritance. He looked directly at me. Already know your name. The warehouse lights suddenly went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Outside, tires screeched across the pavement. Someone had found us. Darkness swallowed the warehouse so completely that I couldn't even see my own hands. For one terrifying second, nobody moved. Then Angela's calm voice cut through the silence. Stay down. The sound of hurried footsteps echoed outside. Car doors slammed. Someone shouted orders I couldn't understand. My pulse thundered as I instinctively reached for Naomi. This time, I didn't pull away. My fingers found hers, and she squeezed my hand with surprising strength. A flashlight suddenly pierced the darkness. Benjamin remained remarkably calm. They're trying to frighten us, he said. If they wanted us dead, they wouldn't announce their arrival. Angela nodded. I already called the police before you both arrived. The footsteps outside immediately changed direction. Whoever had surrounded the warehouse realized they had lost the advantage. Within minutes, the distant sound of approaching sirens filled the night. One by one, the vehicles outside sped away. The danger disappeared as quickly as it had arrived. When the lights flickered back on, the room looked exactly the same. Only we had changed. I looked at Naomi. For the first time in months, I wasn't seeing suspicion in her face. I was seeing exhaustion. The exhaustion of someone who had carried impossible secrets alone. She slowly released my hand. I'm sorry, Ethan. I thought protecting you meant hiding everything. Her voice trembled. But every lie pushed you farther away. I lowered my eyes. And every assumption pushed me farther from you. Neither of us had been innocent. She had chosen secrecy. I had chosen conclusions. My mother often told me, a broken bridge is repaired from both sides, or not at all. Those words settled deep inside me. Benjamin handed me the final folder my father had left behind. Inside wasn't only information about the properties. There was also a handwritten letter. The paper had yellowed with age. I recognized my father's handwriting immediately. Son, if you're reading this, it means life forced you to grow before you were ready. Remember this, wealth can build houses, but only character builds a home. Protect people before possessions. Forgive whenever wisdom allows. I read those lines twice, then a third time. The tears I had been holding back finally escaped. Not because of the inheritance, not because of the danger, because, after 20 years, my father was still teaching me how to live. Weeks later, the investigation officially ended. Authorities arrested the group attempting to locate my father's hidden assets through intimidation and fraud. Benjamin was finally free from the promise he had carried for 2 decades. Angela closed her case. Danielle and her daughter entered a witness protection program until the abusive ex-boyfriend was sentenced. Little Ava's treatment continued successfully. The anonymous donations never stopped. This time, Naomi and I made them together. Our marriage wasn't magically healed. Trust doesn't return overnight. It returns through ordinary moments, honest conversations, shared tears, and the courage to answer difficult questions before silence answers them instead. One evening, while taking out the trash, I paused beside the same bathroom bin that had shattered my world. I smiled quietly. The trash can hadn't changed. I had. It no longer represented betrayal. It reminded me that appearances can deceive, assumptions can wound, and truth often arrives wearing the wrong face. My mother's final lesson became the foundation of my life. The truth may take longer than fear, but it never loses its way. I finally understood. Real victory wasn't proving I was right. It was refusing to let pain turn me into someone I would no longer recognize. 3 years have passed since the night everything changed inside that abandoned warehouse. Life didn't become perfect. It became honest. The hidden properties my father left behind became the foundation of something far greater than wealth. Instead of selling them to the highest bidder, Naomi and I transformed several buildings into affordable housing for struggling families. Another property became a vocational training center, where young men and women could learn skilled trades without carrying the burden of impossible tuition. Every time I walked through those buildings, I remembered my father's words. Wealth can build houses, but only character builds a home. Those words shaped every decision I made. Benjamin became the grandfather figure I never knew I needed. He visited every Sunday afternoon, bringing stories about my father that no photograph could ever capture. Through him, I discovered that the greatest inheritance my father left behind wasn't land or buildings. It was integrity. Angela eventually retired from investigative work. We stayed in touch, and every Christmas she reminded me that facts are stronger than assumptions, but only if we have the courage to search for them. Danielle rebuilt her life as well. Ava's leukemia entered complete remission. Watching that little girl laugh during the opening ceremony of our children's learning center remains one of the happiest memories of my life. The pregnancy test that nearly destroyed my marriage had unknowingly led us toward helping dozens of children receive hope when they needed it most. Naomi and I also rebuilt something fragile. Trust. Not through grand speeches, not through expensive gifts, but through thousands of ordinary conversations. We stopped hiding fears from one another. We learned that love grows strongest where honesty lives. Whenever uncertainty appeared, we faced it together instead of alone. One quiet Saturday morning, I found myself standing in the same bathroom where my world had once fallen apart. The sunlight entered through the same window. The mirror reflected the same walls. Even the trash can stood in the same corner. Only this time, Naomi walked in smiling. Without saying a word, she placed a small white box in my hands. Inside rested another pregnancy test. I looked at it, then at her. Tears filled both our eyes before either of us spoke. "It's ours," she whispered. I laughed through tears I didn't bother hiding. 3 years earlier, that same object had represented fear, suspicion, and heartbreak. Today, it represented hope. I gently wrapped my arms around my wife. For the first time in years, my heart felt completely at peace. As we stood together, I heard my mother's voice one last time. "The truth may wound you today, but it will free you tomorrow. Never allow fear to speak louder than love." She had been right all along. Looking back, I realized the greatest mistake I ever made wasn't believing a lie. It was believing that silence could replace honest conversation. Real strength isn't found in revenge. It isn't measured by money, property, or success. Real strength is choosing truth when lies seem easier. Choosing forgiveness when bitterness feels justified. Choosing character even after your heart has been broken. If my story has taught me anything, it's this. Never build your conclusions before you build your understanding. Sometimes the evidence you see tells only half the story. And sometimes the person you are ready to abandon is the very person trying to protect you. Never let fear write the ending of your story. Trust should never ignore wisdom, and wisdom should never ignore compassion. The strongest relationships are built on honest conversations, not silent assumptions. Character will always outlast wealth, and truth will always outlast deception. Life often teaches its greatest lessons through moments that seem impossible to survive. This story reminds us that assumptions, no matter how convincing they appear, can destroy trust faster than the truth itself. Ethan believed the evidence in front of him was enough to reach a conclusion, but he learned that what we see is not always the complete picture. Before making life-changing decisions, we must seek understanding rather than react with emotion. Another important lesson is the value of honest communication. Naomi's intention was to protect the people she loved, yet her silence created fear, suspicion, and unnecessary pain. Even good intentions can lead to harmful consequences when honesty is replaced by secrecy. Strong relationships are not built on perfect circumstances, but on the courage to have difficult conversations before misunderstandings grow beyond repair. The story also teaches that true wealth is measured by character, not possessions. Ethan's greatest inheritance was never the hidden properties or financial security left by his father. His greatest inheritance was the wisdom to choose integrity over revenge, compassion over bitterness, and forgiveness over hatred. Material success can improve comfort, but only strong values can bring lasting peace. Finally, this journey reminds us that healing is a choice.